Vikings versus Lions.
Good morning, Gjallarhorn. You know what? It's the week we go hunting lions. Detroit Lions, that is. Let's bring in the guys. Good morning, Gjallarhorn. This is your Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit Lions preview show. And as you can see, I've got my safari shirt on. Why? Because we're going to go hunting lions.
We just thought you were a nerd.
Yeah, that's like uber nerdy, man. Seriously.
Hey. It's the way to go when you have to go hunt lions.
You don't have a hat that goes with it? That would really make it complete. With those
I've got some
hats.
camo hats, but I don't need it. And,
You got to talk.
actually, I had a fedora once that would have gone perfect with it. But we're here to talk Vikings football and them going into Detroit to defeat the Detroit Lions. How are you guys doing? Drew?
Beautiful, man. I'm doing beautiful. 2 in a row. We're going for 3 in a row this week.
Ted, how you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be against the law. Let's get this candle.
Now we start the show. Cue the music.
All right, good.
Billy Ocean. Okay.
All right, we come off a week where the Vikings were rolling. They were hot. They did probably the best game of the season against the Eagles. We're now rolling into Detroit at Ford Field, which is indoors, like I've said before, which plays to their strengths. It's on turf, climate controlled, beautiful. But they're going against the Lions that got screwed on Monday night. How do you guys think this is going to go, Ted?
I think offensively, the Vikings should be able to keep doing what they're doing. The Lions defense isn't really all that good statistically. They really aren't. Drew will probably get into the numbers later, so I'll let him break the numbers to us. But I think the Vikings can have a lot of success both running and throwing the ball. And as well as they have done that the last couple weeks, as long as they can convert when they're in the red zone, which they're a pretty good team in the red zone, the Vikings are this year, I think it'll be a pretty good day. But you know, in recent years, Detroit is a game. It's not a gimme anymore like it was back in the day when we were growing up. Detroit's a good team, and look, they took Kansas City. They took Kansas City to the final gun. They should have won at Green Bay. They got royally screwed, like you said, Dave.
Yes, they did.
But then again, they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team like the Vikings are, because they had that horrible tie against Arizona in week 1 where they were up big late and then they choked it all away and ended up with a tie. And then
and as Vikings fans, we know about choking.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
You look at their roster compared to the Vikings, their defense is pretty good, but I think offensively the Vikings are better at almost every position. Maybe almost every position. A couple positions on the line, I think I'd probably take a couple Detroit players, but I like this seems on paper a very, very favorable matchup for the Vikings.
Okay, they played traditionally a 3-4 defense. It's more like a 3-8 defense. They're about opposite of what we saw last week, where their back end's better than the front end. But I agree with you, looking at that defense, the Vikings offense should, if Stefanski and Kubiak keep scheming the way they are, have their way, whether it be in the run or the pass. Now, what helped last week was that Philadelphia wanted to take out our number one asset, which is the run game. So they loaded up the box, 8 in the box, 8 in the box, 8 in the box. And we had linebackers that would come and suck in and bite on just about everything. which allowed our offensive linemen to focus on the rushing, and then we ran more play actions because of that and caught receivers wide open downfield because you had the one safety up and the whole works. Now, whether Detroit plays that, we don't know. If they keep favoring the backfield for Diggs and Thielen, then they're going to get burned on the run game because we're going to pound a rock. But if they come up in the box like teams are wanting to do, because Coach Zimmer established we're a run team first, right? And that may be a psyops type move, then we're going to burn them over the top. So it depends on the play calling, and I think it also depends on one other thing. If Kirk Cousins comes out hot, if he comes out and gets in his group, some quick passes to receivers, he tends to play better. He does that, I think we roll on Sunday. What do you think, Drew?
What the hell is a psyop?
Psychological operation, baby.
Okay, fine. I think it's very similar to last week. The difference is with this team is that Philly was number 1 against the run and they were 27th against the pass. The Lions are 28th against the pass and 27th against the run. So they're equally bad on both sides of the ball. And they only have 10 sacks all season. Granted, it's one less game, but 10 sacks is not a lot of sacks. And as you've seen against that team from Wisconsin, they don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. At least I didn't see a lot of it, which that should fare well for us. Again, I agree with Ted. I think we can roll in this game. The only thing that's going to beat us is turnovers and penalties and our own mistakes. But defensively, the Lions are worse than the Eagles. They're 29th in the league in defense. There's not a lot of teams in the league. I think there's like 32.
Last time we checked, yes.
Did you guys know we were 23rd in offense going into the Giants game? We were 18th in offense going into the Eagles game, and we're now 11th.
Wow.
In total offense, really, in 2 games.
Yeah, in just a matter of those 2 games. I wanted to throw that in there because that was my cool stat of the week. We moved up from 23 to 11 in a matter of 2 games.
I did say, to piggyback on that, I did see where I think it was Chris Thomason tweeted out, Pioneer Press Vikings beat reporter, tweeted out that the last 2 games were the 2 most productive back-to-back offensive performances in the Mike Zimmer era in terms of total yards, I believe.
Excellent. That's good. See you throwing out some stats there, brother.
I just saw it right before we came on.
You know, the difference of this Detroit team, I think they're a lot better than their 2-2-1 record, as Ted mentioned the games they've played going so far. I think the difference of Detroit this year is they're +5 in turnovers, which always goes well for your team if you could be on the plus side. We're +1, they're +5. I think the difference is, and I don't know if you want to agree with me, every year I watch Matt Stafford play, every game of every year, he does a couple real bonehead things. Really dumb.
Yeah, he does.
He hasn't done that this year.
No.
A lot. He hasn't been making the big mistake that Stafford always, he's always known for. We watched the games last year. Our show before the Lions game last year, we'd say, well, it's probably going to be close, but Stafford's going to give us a couple giveaways. So, not to say that won't happen Sunday.
So what you're saying is he's due.
That's exactly what I'm saying. He's been protecting the ball really well. He's been making great decisions. So when it comes in Sunday, he could, if he makes 7 or 8 really bad decisions, they have no chance, really. They have to play a good game. Statistically, from the Drew computer, we should roll again this week for our 3rd straight win. And we've beaten the Lions the last 3 times, which doesn't seem like a big streak, but the way things were going against the Lions, winning 3 in our row against them is pretty nice.
Well, considering Zimmer's, if I remember correctly, 5-5 against them. He's 500.
Yeah, and he lost his first 2 games at US Bank Stadium to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been a sore spot, I think, for Mike Zimmer. So hopefully he's over that hump.
Yeah, I have a good feeling about this game if we can keep it in check and keep our composure and don't give the game away. I mean, let's face it, guys. If we blow this one, we're 0-3 in the division. Then taking the division is going to be tough at that point.
Yeah. Talk about, we kind of talk about must-win games early in the year. We've said the last couple. I think this is right up there, too, because if you go 0-3 in the division, you still have a legitimate shot at the playoffs, I think, but winning the division outright with the Packers sitting at 5-1 and undefeated in the division, that would be a tall order. I mean, I'm not weirder things have happened, but man, the odds of that winning reversing course would be hard. Yeah.
Well, the good thing is the remainder of the year, this will be our third road division game, so the rest of the division are all home games from this point on. Still, 0-3 is a tough hole to climb out of.
It is.
You know, I don't want to go down that road.
So, but we all agree, don't lose.
That's what we agree with, Safari Dave. Don't
that
lose.
Is the kind of searing analysis you get here at Good Morning Gjallarhorn, folks. Don't lose.
Here's our insight and breakdown. Don't lose. Call me Booger McFarland. Honestly, dude. Don't lose.
Hey, it works.
Whoever scores for is going to win this game, Al.
That's right. You talk about stats. I look at some of the advanced stats, right? I was looking at.
Look at the advanced ones. Those are for you.
Football Outsiders. Hey, we talk about offense. Minnesota went from 16th last week to their ranked number 5 in DVOA, and Detroit went from 17th to 21. So you see that disparity. Then you get on the defensive side. Minnesota last week, they showed at 4, dropping to 6. That's because they allowed 20 points and a lot of yards. Detroit was at 12. They now stayed even at 12 after that Monday game. Still,
what was Minnesota?
They were 4 the week before.
They're 5th overall.
And they're to 6th. NFL, they're 5th. So we're looking at a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. That should win us a lot of games. But first, they got to take care of business and win this one Sunday.
Yeah, you know what, Ted? Statistically, when you look at offense and defense, the Lions are worse than the Eagles. I don't know really how else to put it. I mean, the Eagles had a better offense and about the same piss poor defense as Detroit has, but Detroit's offense is around 13th in the league, so they're not even as the Eagles were.
I think the Lions are a better red zone defense, and like you said, I think they have more turnovers than Philadelphia does, which probably goes into why they're, why you could make a really good argument that they should be 4-0 and 4-1-1, however many games they played.
Well, at least 3-1.
But yeah,
at least
they just. You look at their defense, but then you look at their results, man. They almost beat Kansas City. They should have beat Green Bay. That by rights they. How are they? How is it that they're not winless with the defense that bad? I don't know.
Has Matt Patricia figured out the golden? Isn't that the coach's name?
Yeah,
Matt Patricia. Yeah.
Sit up straight and respect the process when you say that.
That one, exactly. Figured out, finally, how to get that team.
Probably just because it comes down to a couple big plays a game, and they're not making them.
Yeah, I mean, their defense tells me they kind of bend but don't break, and they don't give up. They'll give up yards between the 20s, but they don't. You don't score a lot on them. So the Vikings are going to have to capitalize when they're in the red zone for sure.
Their rush defense gives up 133 yards a game. You got to feed Cook.
Yeah.
Not that it's on par with this game, but I saw a stat yesterday. Did you know the Chiefs give up over 180 yards every week in rushing?
Wow. Kidding me?
180 plus.
That's got to be last in the league.
We're going to light them up, bro. Madison's going to have 180.
Knock on wood. What do they give up in pass?
The Lions' pass defense is 28th in the league. They give up 280 yards a week. They're 28th in the league.
So they're giving up over 400 yards offensively.
Yeah, they give up 413 yards of offense every week.
Wow.
Man.
280 in the air and 133 on the ground.
Well, if, 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 we've had a good offensive day.
You know what, David? Vikings come out clicking and they do the same thing they did last week. Then we'll have done it 3 weeks in a row. We can start possibly saying this isn't a fluke. Maybe they do have their shit together.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Quite possibly. Now we're all hoping it's not a fluke. We hope they found that magic sauce that has made Kirk Cousins come out and play, like he's played the last 2 weeks.
22 of 29 last week. Pretty damn good.
Back-to-back 300-yard games. What the last time I saw the last time the Vikings had back-to-back 300-yard games, I don't know if Cousins did it last year. He could have. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like 2009 with Brett Favre that a Vikings quarterback had back-to-back 300-yard games. It's just,
you mean Christian Ponder did it?
Dude, that's nuts, man. That's hard to believe.
I know.
Wow.
Let's just hope there's no implosion on our part this week, because I think that's the only way the Vikings can lose this game is by mistakes. And I know the officials are going to give the Lions some calls because everybody feels like the Lions are owed something at this point. But you know what? Sure, that was a bad call, but that Jones guy dropped an open touchdown right in the end zone. That could have been 7 for the team from Wisconsin also. There's a lot of plays to go back and forth.
Yeah, that's true.
But if we're up by 30, they can call all the penalties they want. It won't matter to me. But
that's true.
We just got to keep it going. See if we're for real this week, baby.
Now, I looked at the injury reports today.
Yeah.
For Detroit Lions, the only ones they didn't have practicing was Mike Daniels and Amani Arura, something like that.
Owarie from
Okay.
Penn State, cornerback from Penn State.
And for the Vikings, we didn't have.
Look at that. Drew dropping the pronunciation knowledge.
Good for
Owarie.
Drew. I appreciate that.
Number 8 on the Drew Big Board for cornerbacks, but that's another show.
In the Vikings, it was Ben Gedeon for concussion and Riley Reef for his ankle.
Say Sherrell's this week. I'm not going to stand for it.
No, I'm not saying him.
Riley Reef? Come on, man.
Yeah,
Remember,
he missed. Yeah, and Rashad Hill played a good chunk
outstanding.
last week. Yeah, he did. And he did
allow
actually
a single
he did
pressure.
fairly well. Yeah,
You guys aren't worried about losing the left tackle?
I am. Yeah.
Well,
That aside, I am.
so far this season, when Hill's come into play, Hill has been the better pass protector than Riley Reef. And it's how he's built. He's got the longer arms. He can get back. Riley Reef's old. He's having a hard time doing a kick, step back, and getting back into blocking. He's literally not. This is probably Reef's last season. So
Sorry.
hopefully with Hill, we get the pass blocking. Problem with Hill is you don't get that run blocking as efficient as you do with Reef. Now, we'll see. We'll see.
Sorry, I was thinking of Sugar Hill there for a second. Hip, hop, hip, hippy dippy, hip, hop, and don't stop.
The Sugar Hill game.
Yeah, let's hope Sugar Hill has a good game. Sounds like he might be in there starting.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
Remember
like.
Sugar Hill gang? Hip, hop, a hippy dippy, hip, hop, and don't stop, a bop it to the bang, bang, boogie to beat. Yeah!
Yeah, that's it, man.
Did you play bass to that at any one time?
Hell no, I didn't play that music. I was all rock all the time, Dave. Black Sabbath.
Well, I
Zeppelin.
figured, but you know these lyrics from.
Well,
obviously
everybody
different
knew Sugar
styles.
Hill. I mean, come on. That was like the first rap band, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they were officially credited as being the first rap band ever.
Before DMC, whatever the name of it ever.
Run DMC.
Now we're getting into history. Speaking of history, Drew,
Yeah, meow.
have you got Vikings and Detroit Lions trivia?
Ted, you ready for the trip?
Let's go. Let's go. Light this candle.
Your record's 19 now. This show, you have a possible 22, and then you have a bonus of another 18 if you can get it. So, you have
Wow.
some answers. Let's get right to it. This is going to test your mind, your brain, your reasoning, your wisdom, your wit, and your understanding.
Well, I'm hosed then. Let's go.
Call it Trivia. That's my best Don Cornelius. Okay. Dave is your one-time lifeline, by the way.
Okay.
One time.
1968 to 1974, the Vikings beat the Lions 13 straight times. In those victories, the Vikings played 5 different quarterbacks. You get a point for each of the 5 you can name.
68 to 74.
Yes, sir.
68 would have been.
You don't have to get them in order. Just name the 5 quarterbacks.
I know. I gotta try and think chronologically. So, Gary Quazzo at 68.
Okay, there's 1.
Joe Cap.
There's 2. Now keep in mind, this was all quarterbacks who played in mop-up time or whatever, not just the starters.
Okay. All right.
There was 5 who actually played, which is really weird for that amount of time.
Parkinson.
Yes, that's 3 of 5. Hip, hop, a hip.
Stop, I'm trying to concentrate. Sneed?
No.
Dave, you got a lifeline for me here?
You get your Dave can be a lifeline on every question, by the way, but you only get 1 mulligan.
Not that far back.
Does not look up, folks.
Bob Berry?
Yes! 4 of 5. Damn, that's pretty impressive. 4 of 5.
Bob Lee.
Oh my God, you aced it.
Did I really?
5 of 5, baby. That's, dude.
Thank you.
You rock,
Thank
Ted. You
Those were
rock.
the 5 quarterbacks who played during that 13 games in a row is not easy to do.
No, it's not.
It'd
Did
be
you know
nice if we did it again?
out of those 13 games, I think we held them to less than 10 9 times.
Are you kidding me? That was the height of the Purple People Eaters, though.
That's
so.
statgasm. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Number 2, the Vikings and Lions. I hit you with this one every week. They played 115 times. How many times have the Lions won? There's your.
Oh. Okay, so I know how many times the Vikings. So
Yeah, they played 115 times. So I'm going to give you a leeway of 10 on this one instead of 1.
I know so hang on, 85, 95.
How many times?
35.
You win. 39.
39.
You got it within 10, so you get that one right. There's another point.
Woo!
All-time record is 74, 39, and 2.
That's correct. And Ted's all-time record is 19. He's on 6, so he's moving right towards it. Moving on over. Rocking on over. Here we go. Piggybacking off question number 1. From 1986 to 1990, the Vikings beat the Lions 9 out of 10 times. Which is 90% maybe. I don't know. In that span, we had 3 different players play quarterback for Minnesota. What 3 quarterbacks? You get a point for each.
That was
From 86 to 90.
86
You
to
know,
90.
I got to study my 80s Vikings because that is my absolute worst period of Vikings knowledge because I just the 86 to 90.
To improve your knowledge, you'll know more about the Vikings.
Wade Wilson.
That's correct. 1 of 3. Correct, sir.
Steelers?
No. There's your mulligan. Can't miss any more. 2 more guys.
Tommy Kramer.
2 of 3, baby. He's on fire. Fire.
I'm going to say Rich Gannon.
Correct.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
That gives you, damn, dude. That gives you 9 so far.
Woo!
Okay, out of the 74 lifetime Vikings victories over the Lions, the most points the Vikings have ever scored was Week 13 of the 2007 season. The Vikes won at home 42-10. 6 different players rolled up 216 collective yards rushing. You get a point for each one you can name.
How many players?
6
Adrian
players.
Peterson.
Players have to be running backs. Players.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
What
Adrian
year was
Peterson.
this?
2007.
And the
AP.
most points was how much?
42-10. 42. What'd you guess, AP? Who else?
AP's my first one.
Yes, that's correct.
Chester Taylor,
Those were the top 2 rushers that day.
Jim Kleinsasser.
Incorrect. That's your mulligan.
Really? How many players total?
6. You got 2 of them. You got AP and Chester Taylor.
Let's see.
I know you know the quarterback because you answered him last week.
I did. Tarvaris Jackson.
Yes. You're halfway home, Glover. Halfway home. Halfway home. For the day.
So they probably did like some goofy wide receiver end around reverse that got a chunky yards.
2 of the 3 remaining were running backs.
Really?
They used a lot of running backs that day.
Oh, he was a kid. Theatric Faison.
That is incorrect. The only name, you used your mulligan. If Dave can name one, then you get credit for whatever he can name.
And the year was?
2007.
Was the Wisnator still on the team?
No, he was not. No, he was not. Guys, the 3, you got AP, Tarvaris Jackson, Chester Taylor. The other 3 that
Was
combined
a fullback.
was 2 full. Well, one was a tight end fullback, Jeff Duggan.
Right. Dugan.
Muelde Moore was in on the.
How did I forget
Yes.
Muelde Moore?
And Tony Richardson was in on it.
Oh, that's right. That was Tony's 1 year with the
Very
Vikings,
good.
wasn't it?
6 players, totaled up 216 yards. You got 3 on that one, which gives you 12, I think.
Now, but Drew, I call
What?
shenanigans. You said that is the most the Vikings have scored against Detroit.
Wasn't it?
No, it was not.
No. The most in a win. Not we've lost and scored more, I think.
No,
That
that's the most. That's not the most in the win either.
Well, shit, what was the most in the win?
1988. You had Bernsey coaching the Vikings.
Was that the Thanksgiving game?
It
That was-
November 6th. It wasn't
What's the score?
Thanksgiving. Final score: Minnesota Vikings 44, Detroit 17.
Jesus, you're gonna call me on 2 points? Sit down,
No,
Safari.
I'm just saying. We've had
Okay.
2 40 burgers in the history. Now,
Yeah.
will we have 3 come Sunday?
I would love to see that. Question 5. Go. You ready, Ted?
Let's go.
Or I'll give Ted another point for my shenanigans, since Dave's keeping track. All right, here we go. There's a defensive end who played for both the Vikings and the Lions. His initials were AB. He played from Detroit from 78 to 82, and he played for the Vikings in 1988. His nickname was Bub.
Bubba. And Antonio Brown. I don't know.
Al Bubba Baker. Come on.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
I had to, they get tougher as they go, Ted.
They do. These are hard. These are
Throwing you out there in these softballs like the Sugar Hill gang. Come on now. Okay, out of the 6 decades since these two have been playing, the Lions have only won the head-to-head matchup in 1 decade. What decade was that? Between 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and the 2010s.
I'm going to say the 80s.
Incorrect. The 1960s,
60s?
Lions won 9 wins to 7 for the Vikings and 2 ties. That was the only decade that they got the upper hand on us. We've either won or tied all the rest.
All right.
Okay. We have a question about the other team right now.
Yeah, let's go.
Right, head coaches, since 1961, which is when the Vikings started in the league, the Lions have had 18 coaches.
Jeez.
Wait, he's calling me out on shenanigans.
No. Back in the 60s, who was the quarterback for the Lions? At least the late 60s.
Greg
Bill-
Landry.
Bill Munson, Greg Landry.
Drew got it right. Greg Landry. What does Greg Landry mean to me? Old-time
He's your-
fans
Wasn't
will know.
he was your coach or something, wasn't he?
He was my offensive coordinator in high school. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, dude, you're old.
I know. I'm old. But anyways,
Let's go to throw in there. All right. Was he a nice guy or was he kind of a prick?
no, he seemed nice. He was all right. We installed a pro eye system in high school, which led us to the state championship. Nobody else was playing it. They were all playing Wishbone and Veer and other more older style offenses. And it
Cool,
worked.
dude.
That was cool, man.
Landry, let me tell you, there ain't a quarterback in NFL history that took a pounding from the purple people.
Like Rick Landry did.
No, nobody did. Landry is the number one guy for sacks. I bet you they sacked that guy over 100 times.
He got beat to death every single game.
Yeah.
Golly,
He
he
looked
played
like
on some bad
behind the green door like Marilyn Chambers, man. Okay, Ted.
That's
All
terrible.
right.
All right, let's go. Last question.
Head coaches.
How many? How many do I got to name?
You get a point for every one.
Oh, geez.
I can typically start naming them from about number 8 on. No, number 7 on. The first,
61 on.
So,
I was
Well-
61. The 18 coaches since 1961.
golly.
Respect the process.
So, yeah,
That's your freebie.
Patricia's the newest guy. Before that was Caldwell.
That's right.
Let's see. Wayne Fonts, my all-time favorite Lions coach. Love the guy. I love Wayne Fonts. He was awesome.
And it has no, Wayne Fonts has 88.
Steve Mariucci had a cup of coffee with the Lions for a few years.
That gives you 4. Well done.
Bobby Ross.
Town drunk. That's right.
Bobby Ross had.
It's like you.
Marty, it's morning wake in America again.
Hey, damn, dude's got 6 so far.
Did I say Jim Caldwell already?
Yes.
Jim Schwartz.
No, there's another one. You got the last 3. You got the last 3 were Schwartz, Caldwell, and Matty Patricia.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Curfew. Hip, hop, hip, hip, bang, bang, boogie to up, chuck the boogie to big D. You know what's funny? When I was
Come on,
making,
you know one of them.
Ted, when I was making this list, there's a guy on it that was on the Bears list that you named.
Yes.
That's kind of
what
my-
I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was like, Geron, Dick Geron.
No.
He was the guy after, was it Mariucci got fired?
Yes, it went Morningweg, Mariucci, Geron. Then you're only missing one guy, and then you got the other 3. So you've got almost the last 7 guys in a row. You're just missing one, who was the number 15. This is the guy that came after Geron and before the Schwartz is with you.
What was the year?
Still coaching.
The dude that went winless.
He's still coaching in the league. He's,
What is Marinelli, baby? Rob Marinelli.
he's for up Dallas, isn't he? He's for the Cowboys or something.
He's somewhere. Yeah, he was always a good defense coordinator. He just
Wow, out of the last.
Yeah, but why did they go winless? What was the problem?
they had no talent. They were terrible.
Well, they were terrible. Why did they have no talent? Who was the GM?
Oh, Matt Millen.
Out of the last 11 Detroit coaches, the most recent 11 coaches, you've got 10 of them.
Have I really?
Missed one guy. And when you hear the name, you're gonna bust
Oh,
up.
wait a minute. No, I know it because he was a Michigan guy.
See what?
Muller, Gary Muller. He was like the interim dude.
That's right, Gary. My God, dude, that's awesome. He coached one game or something.
Well, but Muller was Muller.
Mueller was
He was it after he got fired for drunk driving at Michigan?
after Bobby Ross. Yeah. After he got fired for drunk driving, he became the linebacker coach for the Bengals.
Leader of men.
And from there, he got the Lions job. Because if you're a Lions owner and you're looking at a DUI at Michigan and then coaching for the Bengals, well, of course that's the guy I want running. Oh, yeah, you got the last 11, dude. That is awesome.
I mean, like the Lions. I mean, they've had memorable coaches, and I've always not hated. I mean, like I can't remember. Fonz is the one guy I remember. I know that they had an old guy, like
Look out one mulligan if you can come up with any more names.
no, I like Schmidt, I think, or Ham, or like the beer,
Joe
something
Schmidt.
like in the early '70s.
Schmidt
But
from
then,
England.
but then they went.
Joe Schmidt.
Joe
Okay,
Schmidt.
yeah, okay, there you go, yeah. And then they went. They
Like-
fired like a bunch of guys in the '70s. They had like a new coach every year.
Joe Schmidt, who's in some
What's that?
movies, a couple football movies. Joe Schmidt,
Was he really?
football coach. That's how I remember. Plus, I'm from Michigan, so I remember my dad yelling, "Fuck Joe Schmidt" all the time. So I remember that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Damn.
It's the best you've done for the coaches.
And add that to the other points he's generated. He's got
The only one I knew on this list that you didn't get was number 7, Monty Clark. I remember him coaching the Lions back in the 70s. The guy that used to coach the 49ers. I remember Monty Clark he was with the Lions before the 49ers.
Didn't he have like a Jimmy Jones kind of hairstyle before Jimmy Jones did?
Yes, dude. Yeah, he had the Jimmy Jones hairstyle. That's right. The rest of the guys you don't know, they're not even worth mentioning. It's a waste of air. Damn, that's good, dude. 11. She got 11. Let's see what your total is. 11, 15, 18, 19, plus 5 is 24.
Woo-hoo!
All right, next week I'm going to have a bunch of fucking Bubba Baker questions for you.
Yeah, I got to study my '80s Vikings, man. That's just not a good era for me.
It was kind of weird when I was putting together this trivia thing. I was thinking, for divisional games, we've had classic games against the Bears. We've had some real classic games against that team from Wisconsin. We haven't really had a lot of classic games against the Lions.
Yes, the Lions are only good once a decade.
But we haven't had a real classic game that went back and forth that we all really remember off the top of I can't really remember a lot of Lions games. I remember one 10 years ago when they missed the extra point and we won the game because they flopped the extra point. I remember that, but there wasn't really a lot of, like the Bears, we got the Peyton game. We got the Harbaugh getting yelled at on the sideline game.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of them, though.
Well, there was Barry Sanders, I remember running against the Vikings.
Yeah, Sanders had some good games against the Vikes. I remember Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone. And like a
with
10
Jared Allen going,
I'll announce to everybody that before we went on the air, Ted actually guessed a question that I had on my list by just screwing around. He said something about George Plimpton in the movie. What's the movie now? Paper Lion. The movie Paper Lion. I had one of the questions on my list was who played George Plimpton in the movie Paper Lion, and Ted guessed Alan Alda. So in all actuality, he probably got 25 instead of 24. So that was excellent. You got kind of ripped out of that one, but great job. You're really good at this trivia.
I like trivia. I love sports trivia.
Well, I try to come up with the best questions I can, bro.
I love that we add Vikings history for the people that view this to enrich their fandom. And this has got Ted studying, it's got me studying, you're obviously into it. And it helps to show what a rich history the Minnesota Vikings have. And I thank you, Drew, for that, because it's fantastic and it adds so much to the show.
I think everybody should be involved in the history of the Vikings. I tell a lot of the younger people, like the people in the group and stuff that talk about, like Smash, he'll sometimes message me and he always says, I want, what should I learn as a young fan or something? What I'm not really learn about? Learn about the history of the Vikings. Yeah. Study older guys like Tony Bell does. There's a lot of interesting stories with Ed White and all these guys, man. It's a treasure trove of storyland.
And what I love is Ziggy Wilf and Ziggy and Mark both embrace the previous Vikings, and they bring them into the organization. And that is just, it builds the family. It builds a team that you want to root for, right? And that to me, it adds so much to being a Minnesota Vikings fan.
I like what.
Go ahead.
What's that?
I'm glad you guys allow me to do the old stuff. I mean,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
We all appreciate the history of the Vikings,
I
but
just can't believe how much Ted remembers. I killed
Dude,
brain cells for most of those decades.
dude,
Dude, I was a sports growing up in the 70s. Like the 80s, I'm not really good at because I sort of started getting a little bit interested in girls and stuff, and then I moved away, and I didn't have the constant access to football like you do with the internet and technology now.
And Sunday ticket, yeah,
and
you don't have it.
And the Vikings, quite frankly, were pretty bad. And I started playing football myself, and I had so much of my spare time was taken up, practicing and studying all that kind of stuff with school and all that. So
Speaking of pretty bad, yeah.
hey,
so yeah.
what? I got a request since I put the big trivia package. Can I get a Don Glover story for my night? Possibly.
Yeah.
Football, maybe one where you came home late and he yelled at you. That'd be kind of funny.
So
or where you're
you
with the car.
want to hear about the time I wanted to join the Marine Corps?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
So
We can end this show right. The only way to end it right is with a Don Glover story.
I'm 17 years old, and I've decided I want to join the Marine Corps. I go down and recruiter and all that other good stuff. And the Marine Corps he's this burly chested dude straight out of Central Casting, 6'3", 6'4", V cut, just this monstrously big guy. My dad is 5'4", 140 pounds, maybe dripping wet, maybe. And so we had a parent-teacher conference or something. I didn't have to go to school, so I went down and saw the recruiter and got all the information. And he said, hey, look, you're 17, so you'll need one of your parents to sign for you to be able to go in after high school to go to basic training and all this other stuff. I'm like, and the guy said, and if it'd be better, I could come out and meet your father and kind of discuss everything and all that. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go home and I sit down and my dad's sitting there in his chair drinking a beer. I'm like, Dad, I want to join the Marine Corps. And I remember he put his beer down and he put his paper down and he says, oh, really? You do you? I'm like, yeah, I want to be a Marine. And so he let me explain the whole spiel, what I wanted to do. And I finished. He's like, so is that everything? Is that it? And I said, well, and he'd be willing, the recruiter would be willing to come out and talk to you here at the house. And he just kind of shook his head. He leaned forward in his chair. He said, let me tell you something. I will under no circumstances will I sign any paperwork to let you go to the United States Marine Corps. Now, when you're 18, you can do whatever you want and I can't stop you. But I'm telling you right now, I ain't signing those papers. Took another drag of his beer. And I said, but Dad, the guy will come out and he'll talk. And he put his hand up. And he said, listen, if that son of a bitch comes to my house, I'm going to throw him out on his ass. And I kind of stepped back for a minute and I thought to myself, I firmly believe my father would have kicked that dude's rear end. I really do. My dad was a wiry fellow back in the day. So I kind of had a fit and we kind of got into an argument. And he sort of ended. He said, look, I don't know when this day will come, but someday you're going to pull me aside and you're going to say, hey, Dad, you remember when I was 17 and I wanted to join the Marine Corps and I told you no? And you thought I was the worst parent in the world? You're going to thank me. You're going to say, thanks, Pop, because that would have been the dumbest thing I could have ever done. He was a little bit more colorful. That's the dumbest thing I could have ever done. And I'm not lying. It was less than 2 years later. We were at a Christmas party. I was home on leave. I went to Ohio State, joined the Air Force long. And I came home and we were both having a beer. And I looked over at him. I said, hey, Dad. And he kind of knew, I don't know why, but he knew it was going to go on. He's like, what? I said, you remember when I wanted to join the Marine Corps and you told me no? And he started laughing. He's like, yeah, I'll never forget that. Why? You got something to say to me? Yeah, thanks for not letting me join. So that's my Don Glover story for the week.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The Don Glover stories it's well worth doing the show every week just to hear those stories. That's beautiful, dude.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to wrap this up. Any last words, Drew?
Meow, meow, Viking cow. I will see you cats on the flip-flop later. That's the Hail Victors, baby.
I'll see you Sunday, and then I'll see you guys in Miami. Super Bowl, homeboy.
Skol Vikings! Let's go hunt some lions.
Pop it, the dope style, pocket to the sand chain. Look at the bees.